Hi, I'd like to take a few moments just to tell you a little bit about what's happened in the second charge market over the last 10 months, where we are now, probably what we can expect over the next few months, and importantly, some information about some fabulously flexible products for consumers and for buy-to-let. But just to roll the clock back a little way, let's go back to March 2020 when COVID first came on the scene, big style, and it's fair to say that lenders pulled out of the market in the second charge sector fairly heavily. Combined with that, surveyors went into lockdown, so we were reliant on automatic valuations. Buy-to-let plans were withdrawn. Self-employed plans were really restricted or pulled altogether. Loan sizes reduced. LTVs were reduced, and credit scores for those lenders that do credit score, well, the credit scores were reduced as well. So it was a pretty torrid time back there. June through to October, we started to see lenders coming back with a little bit more confidence. LTV is back on the increase with people like Optimum going up to 95%. The surveyors were back working as well. Self-employed plans, they started to come back with Optimum and Shawbrook up to 85%. Credit scores, well, those were reduced, the necessary credit scores, so that was good. And we saw lower rates and better LTVs for buy-to-let products as well. Lenders started to look more favorably again at bonus and commission and situations around affordability, which has been a problem throughout. And then from November, well, I think by the time we got to November, most lenders had got to the place where they were comfortable with their criteria. And even with the lockdown that we've just had, they were already in a good place. Their criteria was fit for now. So loan sizes have continued to increase. LTVs have increased. We've seen relaxation around self-employed further, with lenders looking at bank statements because it's been difficult to get projections from accountants. Minimum income also reduced on consumer and buy-to-let cases. And we've seen in the buy-to-let sector withdrawal of minimum income. So some really good positives. So as of today, we're at a place where we can still do 6 times LTI. We can still do 95% LTV, and in some cases, 100% and over. In the second charge market, there's still a flexible attitude towards self-employed and contractors, unusual property types, construction, light to heavier adverse plans there as they were before. And we've still got rates from around about 3.7%. So the products themselves, in terms of what you get as a consumer, haven't changed greatly. The question tends to be now around whether or not you're going to get it. And of course, those challenges are still around payment holidays. Borrowers need to be back to making normal payments. Furlough, they've got to be back in work. For self-employed people, well, lenders are looking very closely at whether the business has been affected by COVID, so they're going to look at bank statements. The accounts very often are going to be a year old, so if we've got an account showing £50,000 but bank statement showing £20,000, lenders are going to ask questions. Bounce back loans, for those who are self-employed and have taken bounce back loans, they've got to be considered in the affordability. Even if you've not used it, it's still got to be considered, because at some point you're going to have to make repayments on it. And then, of course, we've got the impacted sectors such as travel, hospitality, etc. But let's not forget, the second charge lenders, they want to lend. They aggressively want to lend, and they're just looking for the green shoots of recovery. So it's more a case of lending responsibly right now and making sure that these loans are affordable. But as soon as the market starts to change, we're going to see lenders removing a lot of these restrictions because they really, really do want to lend. So we are now in end of January. What is there to get excited about? Well, I think one is that the worst appears to be over, so we should only see improvements in criteria going forward. And in terms of demand, I think there's a massive pent-up demand for second charges. So many customers have put their plans on hold, and consumer confidence is low. And as that improves, which it will, I think we're going to see an awful lot more business done in the second charge market. But I think one of the most exciting things around at the moment is some new products that have come out, and I want to just spend a few moments to tell you about those. It's fair to say that throughout COVID, there wasn't a lot of innovation all the way through to November, and then these new products came on the market, and we were fortunate enough to be one of the pilot brokers to launch them back in November. And there are three types of products, and they're great for landlords, they're great for property developers, and they're great for consumers where flexibility is required. They work largely like an overdraft. So you end up with a facility, a second charge facility. And the beauty of it is that borrowers can flex the loan amount up and down. So picture if you are a property investor and you want to go to an auction, you've got a facility there for 200,000, you dip into it, go to auction, buy, sell, and use it as a flexible overdraft. So it's very, very flexible that in that regard. And as I say, there's no penalty for flexing it up and down. Compared to bridging, this is really a much more cost-effective way of borrowing if you can set this facility up. Similarly for development, but also for consumers. So a typical use for this type of loan might be they're doing home improvements at home. They don't know exactly how much they're going to need. It could be £50,000, but they're going to try and get away with 30. So take a £50,000 facility, and if you only use 30, only pay for 30. School fees. You might need to plan for school fees over the next 5 years. It might cost you £150,000 over 5 years, but it's only £20,000 a year or £25,000 a year. So you set up the facility and then you draw down £25,000 each time. But unlike a bridging loan, this is a term loan. So I'll tell you a little bit more about how it works. So this fighting fund gives property developers, landlords, the opportunity to take advantage of things when they come along very, very quickly because they know the money is there. Now, there is a regulated product, okay, which can be secured on the main residence, which is a little bit cheaper. And then there are two buy-to-let products as well. So both sectors of the market are covered. So they are cheaper and more flexible than bridging finance in most cases. As I said, you only pay interest on the balance outstanding. And there are no ERCs. So you could take this facility out and then pay it off, no ERCs. In most cases, there's no lender fee. So again, cheaper than bridging. And also in most cases, there's no valuation fee. And that's because the lenders work on an AVM wherever they possibly can. So if you picture a portfolio scenario where a landlord wants to take a second charge across 10 different properties in order to create his fighting fund, then if you were to do that in bridging or any traditional finance, you're into valuations on every one. This lender will try and do that without any valuations, just an AVM on each one at £25 a pop. So that makes a big difference to the setup costs. And as I've said, they can be secured over multiple properties. So it can be a first charge, it can be a second charge, it can be a third charge, or a mixture of. And the facility limits are from £25,000 up to £1 million. Well, where can you get £1 million without a valuation? Not easily done. So great products, more flexible and lower setup costs than bridging and most secured loans. So a really cost-effective product, which I think brokers really need to know about, because we've been inundated with calls about these products, both from consumers and from landlords, as they understand them and find out about them. From an underwriting point of view, 6 times LTI, so that's pretty generous. 3 months employed, 12 months self-employed, but they do need to be clean credit. If there's a little bit of a glitch in there, okay, maybe, but their credit scored, they've got to be pretty clean. So 3 different types of overdrafts here. The regulated one is a 5-year loan, where it can flex up and down for the first 5 years, no ERCs. So if you take out a £500,000 facility at the beginning, then and only borrow 50,000 and then go up to 250,000, then back to £20,000, you can do that for the first 5 years. And then after 5 years, it converts to a term loan for the remaining term. So you could have a 30-year facility, first 5 years flex up and down, then it converts to a term loan and it'll be paid off over the remaining term. But of course, there are no ERCs. So if you wanted to maintain the flexibility, you could just go again and take out another one. The business loan works in exactly the same way, but that can be secured over multiple properties. It could even be secured over your main residence and a buy-to-let owned by your limited company and a personally owned buy-to-let. So all of that can be thrown in the mix. And again, it then after 5 years converts to a term arrangement. Rates on that are from 4.95, and but I think it's safer to work on more like 6 by the time you factor in the credit score. And then there's a buy-to-let interest-only product as well, which is a 3-year deal, interest-only, straightforward interest-only at 8%. But it's a facility there which you can dip in and out of. So again, that's aimed at investors, landlords, secured on their portfolio, really useful for them. But although we find many are going for the business loan because it's at a cheaper rate. So massive interest in this, and it reduces the need for costly bridging and development finance in so many different scenarios, and allows you to take opportunities as they come along. So I hope that's a product that you feel is of interest. So just to finish up, let's talk about what we think is going to happen over the next 6 months. Well, I think we're just going to see a gradual easing of criteria. And I think we're going to see a gradual increase in consumer confidence. But I do think that at some point there's going to be a bit of a tipping point when consumers suddenly regain confidence, lenders suddenly regain confidence. And I think that's going to be when we think we're out of this whole COVID episode. And then all of the plans that have been put on hold will be looked at again. The home improvements will be looked at again. The business expansion may be looked at again. The aspirational things, debt consolidation, all those things that might have just been put on hold during this period of uncertainty are all going to kick off again. And I think at that time, we're going to see the market get very, very busy for second charges. So brokers, prepare yourself for that, because I think there's going to be an awful lot of demand. The good thing about seconds is if you've got time to do them yourself and the expertise, you have got access direct to lenders, you've got access to packages such as ourselves who can package them for you. But you have got the referral process as well, which most brokers we find seem to prefer, where if you're really busy on your first charges, you can pass the case over and we'll do everything and keep you up to date on the way. So I think over the next 3 or 4 months, make sure you've got a good marketing strategy, so you're ready to push out messages about seconds as the market gets better, because I think the demand will be out there. And make sure you've got a good referral partner or partner to package your cases for you when the time comes. So that's me. That's it for second charges. I think that's where we're at and that's where we're going. And I hope you found it useful. Thanks a lot.